perfectly aware of the Orson Welles broadcast situation, and in fact it appears in a couple of studies that were made by them to ask the questions about the response to just the general question of the meaning of extraterrestrials. I think, with all due respect, that the young gentleman's facts on what went on in New Jersey are wrong. The extent of the damage there were basically automobile accidents and things like that. People...
Not a lot of suicide, people killing their children, sort of thing.
My reading of the situation, there was, I would say none of that, but let's be open and say little or none of that. I don't believe that any of that went on. In terms of what kind of people are done, it isn't always Billy Joe Bob out in Podunk. We know of people all up and down the socioeconomic spectrum and through all the races, and it's a wide mix of people who are coming in and talking about this. One of the guys who makes the rounds is Dr. John Salter from, I believe, South Dakota State University, and here's a guy who took a totally intellectual approach to the experience all the way through. I do think it's true that there is going to be a significant segment of the American people who are very anxiety prone, and you can't desensitize them to that. And that, I think he's right. But I think, on the other hand, we have been, as I mentioned before, living under a threat that is at least as horrifying as this, namely the hydrogen bomb, for a couple of decades now, and somehow or other, although it scarred us, we've managed to go about our business. So I think that the jury's out as to what the impact of this would be.
All right, Doctor. Hold on just 1 second while I do a station ID, and we'll be right back. You're listening to Area 2000. My guest this week is Michael D. Swords, Dr. Michael D. Swords. He looks into other people's research in these areas and is a fascinating individual, which you should know by now. If you would like to make a comment, the only line I have open is one local line that we just cleared at 383-8255 or 8255.
From Jackie Gone's Plaza downtown, this is KDWN Las Vegas.
Good evening. This is Area 2000 on the air every Sunday evening from 8 until 10 o'clock. Happy to be with you. Back in a moment to Dr. Swords. Well, no. Back right now to Dr. Swords. Doctor, you're back on the air again. And there are a bunch of people that want to speak with you, so let's keep moving through these calls. Good evening. You're on the air with Dr. Swords, who is in Michigan. Where are you calling from, please?
Good evening. This is Fritz from Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, all right.
Just correction. The previous caller said there was mass panic. Yes, it was a disaster in 1938 with the Orson Welles show, but there was nobody killed. Like Dr. Swords said, there were a few car accidents and a few handful of strokes. Some people got excited, but it was not a mass panic like everybody said. But it is true that the government and the Air Force way back in the Dr. Menzel's time used this as a barometer to say, well, there was this incident in New York, and then there was another copycat somewhere in Europe, in a Latin country, where they had also Orson Welles War, a copycat type, where people really went berserk. And so they used this as a barometer, and they said, hey, the people are not ready, etc., etc.
All right. Do you have a specific question?
Well, there's a film coming out now from Russia called Cosmic Top Secret by a producer, I think, his name is Avinsky, where the Russian scientists and ufologists exchanging information with our ufologists, and a major is interviewed there where he will claim that alleged 2 Russian soldiers standing guard were abducted, and that also a UFO was shooting at an antenna on a radar station. I don't know if Dr. Swords is aware of it, but this film should come out very soon here and make the circles.
Are you aware of that film, Doctor?
I'm not. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, he's not.
Well, it will make the circles eventually, but the Russians are catching on now, and since they have the freedom of speech in some way, they're behind in UFO research, but they're more open-minded than we are. They really are hungry for knowledge, and they have less fear than we are. We have we have a coverage on here, an umbrella of fear, because we've been so conditioned that the ETs above. Somehow Russian people embrace the ET contact. They need just more information. They're hungry for the information.
All right, thanks, Fritz. And that is a good subject. Linda Howe was in Europe a few weeks ago, Doctor, and there does seem to be a very distinctly different attitude through Europe and I suppose in Russia and elsewhere than there is in this country. How do you account for the I don't want to say unnatural interest, but greater interest in America in this subject?
I think that we're not getting a very correct view of what the Europeans and the Russians really have in terms of interest. After all, what do you have? You have a few U.S. researchers going over there. Naturally, the people they're meeting with are the people who are most interested in UFOs. They're going to put on their most positive views on the thing, especially the Russians do that, because the Russians not only want to make linkages with the U.S. researchers, but they also want us to help support their research because Russia is so destitute for money. The major institutions over there for the Soviet Union for UFO research ends up every time, and I understand this and don't hold it against them, but they end up every time asking you for money at the end of their letters. And
hard currency, please.
Yes, indeed. And I don't think that I would say that if anything in Europe that there's much less interest in UFOs. The tendency of the people who study UFOs in several of those countries is to view the thing as a psychosociological phenomenon. In fact, that's the heartland of that particular theory about UFOs. I would say that if there is an unusual interest in the Soviet Union, it might be because they've just gone through so many decades of atheistic materialism, and that this is kind of a religion substitute for them. But other than that,
good evening. On the first-time caller line, you're on the air with Dr. Swords. Hello there. Oh, you're not. Line 2, you're on the air with Dr. Swords. Good evening.
Well,
hello.
Yeah, Art, I just want to tell you, I really like your show, Wentz. I've been listening for years.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I got a couple questions for the doctor. First, one is on abductions. And the question I have is, what does your research show as far as abductions through tangible items as far as walls, canvas, tents, etc.? And the second is, have you done any research as far as in Area 51 in Nevada? I've done some my own research up in that area, and it's been very, I can't really say the word for it, but I've seen a lot of weird things up there.
All right, Doctor, let's go to Area 51, if you would. It's just to the north of us here. And I wonder what sort of, there's been a lot of documentation and research about this area. Some people speculate there are discs up there, and so forth and so on. What have you learned about that?
Well, as far as the more spectacular kinds of claims are concerned, I haven't yet been very impressed with those because of the very fragmentary nature of the information, and to some degree the aspersions that have been cast on some of the people delivering it. But in terms of there being a lot of weird stuff in the air over there, I don't think anybody doubts that. Aviation Week, Space Technology magazine, is constantly documenting very high-performance envelope vehicles that are flying over Nevada, and to me, if I take that as the baseline of my information and I look back through time, I think that what they're flying out there is spectacular, but I don't think it's beyond the direction of the technology that you see just prior to that, that's real good old-fashioned U.S. technical magic rather than extraterrestrial technical magic. So I haven't seen anything yet in the Area 15 idea that would lead me to believe that we have to have UFOs and back-engineered alien technology out there, although I sure have heard the rumors like everyone else has.
And it certainly might be the place to take it if you had it. Caller, what was your first question, please?
First question was on far as abductions through tangible items such as houses and walls or tents, that kind of thing in remote areas. But getting back on far as Area 51, I want to ask Dr. Fowers if he's had any observations as far as anything as far as pulses in the area, as far as like laser-type items. I've seen whole mountain ranges lighted up in that area. We're talking magnitude of 10 miles across in depth.
All right, Doctor?
Well, I've heard from some of the people on the air tech side of the thing that the engines of the so-called pulsar craft are so great that when they turn on, that they light up the whole area around. So, again, I think that it's not, it doesn't sound to me like it's a laser effect. It sounds to me like it's the ignition of a big engine.
All right, I'm going to tell you about 2 weeks ago. I'm 48 years old, Doctor. I've never seen a UFO. 2 weeks ago, I saw something I absolutely could not explain, though I think it might have been an experimental aircraft. On my way home, a large triangular craft passed about 150 feet above me. It was actually lit up. It had what appeared to be anti-collision lights, 2 white lights, 1 red light at each point of the triangle, and that's what it was, Doctor. It was a perfect triangle, and at about an altitude of, I'd estimate, 150 feet, passed above me, making not even a sound. I had my automobile stopped. You could hear crickets a quarter mile away. I mean, there was no sound at all, and it just passed above me. Now, I live in a valley just adjacent to Area 51, and my presumption is I saw some sort of incredible experimental aircraft. I have no idea what it was, but it was low enough and slow enough, I would describe it almost as floating, that it absolutely simply is nothing that I know that we have. It was remarkable, Doctor, remarkable.
Yeah, I'm impressed with that kind of a thing because, first of all, you're a credible witness seeing something fairly close. It's a good close encounter of the first kind report, and it matches the pattern of the so-called Belgian triangles that were researched so well by the Belgian government a few years back. It's almost precisely the same description that was given for the objects that appeared quite often over a several-month period in Belgium.
Well, I don't know what I saw. If I was pressed to the wall, Doctor, I would say that I saw some sort of experimental aircraft. But
most people feel that they have to. The crux of the thing is that if what you saw was the same kind of an object that was in Belgium, then the key thing is the Belgian radar reports, which show an extremely rapid change of direction and upward acceleration that should have produced more G-forces than a pilot could have taken, and do seem to be a little out of the performance envelope that we would expect from a current technology.
A little out is putting it mildly, and I'm still thinking very hard about that encounter. I just thought I would take that moment to discuss.
Fascinating.
Okay, line 3, you're on the air with Dr. Swords in Michigan. Good evening.
Good evening. I think everything means one point, to make believe people that they will be alive after death. And this is not true. All those people who believe in the UFO, those are the same people who talk all the time about Jesus and his mother, who they see those people, they see Jesus and his mother in different kind of places, like Medjugorje, like in Poland, like in different, and this is absolutely not true. You need children to tell them those kind of stupid stories about life after death and about Jesus alive and his mother alive and UFO, and you make it's a propaganda now, like they grow like mushroom after the rain, after the collapse by the Soviet Union. So they try to make people believe in more stupid ideas and more stupid lies. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, in that man, Doctor, I just left him on because I wanted to hear it, and I wanted you to hear it. There are a lot of people who react just like that man does to this information, they may make the best case for never releasing it. There's anger,